to lead us into the actual experience of the Christ life. The Christ life on earth is far different than just a happy human life. There are different standards to that life, and there are different modes and means of expression. When I say there are different standards, you will understand that better as you go back to, in your thought, the lessons that we have had on the subject of the Ten Commandments and the Sermon on the Mount, to where you do not live by the human standards at all, even those that were considered good under the Ten Commandments, but where you have a higher standard of measurement, a higher capacity of living, because the personal sense has been removed from it. There is no longer a seeking of I or me or mine or for me or mine. There is a release from that personal sense. It is, I suppose I could describe it briefly by speaking for a moment of the subject of grace. I mean by that the grace that many of you utter at meal times. As I have heard grace given or voiced, it is usually, thank God for this food that is on my table. Thank God for this abundance which you have given me. Thank God for these blessings which have come to us, and of course, God, we're merely here to ask you to keep it up. Been very good to have this. Be sure now you don't stop tomorrow. But this really isn't saying grace at all. This is really a violation of grace. Because it's a lie. God has never given you anything for your table, nor me. God has never singled anyone out to give food and clothing and housing to, nor is there anyone on earth that he withholds it from. There is no such God. There is no giving God, and there is no withholding God. God gives nothing to you, and God withholds nothing from the others. It would be a horrible God that would visit this tremendous prosperity on North America and leave China and India in the poverty in which they find themselves at the moment. There is no such God. Grace, when it is rightly understood, is a recognition of this. Only God can make a tree. Only God has placed the crops in the ground. And only God can prosper them. Only God can give us the fruitage of our trees. Only God can make cattle on 1,000 hills. Only God fills the seas with fish. Only God fills the air with birds. Only God fills this universe with good. Not you or me, this earth. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and Son, all that I have is thine. But that isn't spoken to you or me. That is spoken to you and me and all who live and move and have their being. In other words, this earth is filled with the abundance of God's grace. We bring it into our experience humanly by our labors or our conniving, but spiritually we bring it unto ourselves by our oneness and living consciously in oneness with God. In the human world, there are ways of acquiring this wealth of good, honestly and dishonestly. But there is also a spiritual means of having all of which we shall ever have need, and 12 baskets full left over every day. There is a spiritual means given to us. That is the realization of our conscious oneness with God, our continuously living and moving and having our being in God realization. But you see then, this is not for you or me. This is for anyone, anywhere on the face of the globe, who opens their consciousness to the realization of omnipresence. This abundance is there. Therefore, to say grace properly would be to acknowledge God and thank God that the earth is filled with His glory. The heavens and the earth and the air and the waters beneath the earth are filled with God's glory, and all for the benefit of mankind. The acknowledgement of this is really praying for our neighbor. It is acknowledging our neighbor's right to the same abundance that is on our table. Even our neighbor who momentarily is our enemy. We are praying for our enemy when we are realizing that God's grace fills this earth and that it is available to all of those who no longer have their faith in horses and who no longer have their faith in silver and gold, but in the Spirit of the Lord God, which is within them.
De Calcutá disse um dia uma coisa que isso aí eu tenho de lembrar. Ela disse: difícil é amar o próximo. Amar quem está longe é fácil. Amar o próximo que é a dificuldade. Ter compaixão por alguém que sofre no Sudão por causa do ebola. Ficar com pena de alguém que foi atingido nas Filipinas por um tufão. Doer no peito as mulheres e homens que são massacrados no norte do Iraque. Até aí tudo bem. Duro é amar o próximo que está na tua porta, na tua praça, no teu bairro, na tua rua, na tua estrada.